This crowd on its feet, the best team in basketball all year. All the work, all the sacrifice, handling the enormous weight of massive expectations. Ends tonight here. It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible.
The Boston Celtics have defeated the Dallas Mavericks and won the 2024 NBA Finals. Luka Doncic, despite giving us all his best 2018 LeBron impression, failed to slay the dragon of the Boston Celtics. This championship marks the very first ring for both Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, along with the first championship for Boston ever since 2008. And if I have learned anything from this year's postseason, it's that not every single championship is the same. The 2024 title for Boston has some huge implications on select players' legacies. This title changes everything. The Boston Celtics, to say the least, have had to go through hell and back throughout the era of Tatum and Brown to get a championship. It wasn't just smooth sailing for the Celtics. While their championship this run was slightly watered down compared to previous NBA champions, the Celtics have had to go through as much adversity as any champion has before to get to the promised land. For the Brown and Tatum duo, it all started in 2017, where the Celtics were led by Isaiah Thomas, who was putting up a superstar campaign that season, averaging close to 29 points a game on about 46% from the field. The team outperformed their expectations and finished as the best team in the Eastern Conference. A rookie, Jaylen Brown, was literally drafted into the best team in his conference. After beating the Bulls and Wizards in the playoffs, LeBron was too much for this young team and they lost to the Cavs in 5 games. 2018 was a similar story as 2017, except they had Kyrie instead of Isaiah Thomas as their star player, and a 19-year-old Jayson Tatum and a 21-year-old Jaylen Brown were starting for one of the best teams in the league and were assigned big roles. And once again, they made it to the conference finals, but suffered the exact same fate, losing to the LeBron Cavs in 7. But this series didn't come without Tatum and Brown going toe-to-toe with the prime LeBron James. 2019 was a slight letdown, losing to the Bucks in the conference semifinals. 2020 was another year in the works. A 21-year-old Jayson Tatum and a 23-year-old Jaylen Brown were able to make the conference finals for the 3rd straight year of the last 4 years, only to eventually lose to the Heat. 2021 was another year to forget about, losing to the Big Three in Brooklyn in the first round. 2022 was very interesting. The Celtics got revenge on the Brooklyn Nets, beat the Bucks, beat the Heat, and were beating the Warriors 2-1 in the finals. We all thought this was going to be the breaking point for Boston, but Steph Curry had to remind us who he was. In 2023, the Celtics cruised through the Hawks, beat the 76ers in 7 games, but couldn't get past the Heat, despite nearly coming back from a 3-0 deficit. During the 2023 offseason, the Boston front office realized that this team wasn't going to win a championship with this current supporting cast around Tatum and Brown, so they went all out and got some huge pickups, like getting Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday in replacement for Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and Malcolm Brogdon. The Celtics now had a complete super team rolling into 2024, where they cruised to the best team in the NBA with a record of 64-18. There was no excuse for the Celtics to come up short again, and they knew this going into the playoffs, pretty much dismantling the Heat, Cavs, and Pacers in the East, and overpowering the Mavericks to get the Jays their first championship. The Celtics over recent years have had to really evolve and develop their rosters and playstyles in order to truly compete for a championship. The Celtics during last year and the year before had more depth than any other team in the league, with a starting lineup of Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and Derek White, and players coming off the bench like Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, and Grant Williams. The Celtics looked like one of the deepest teams in the league. Never mind having guys like Hauser and Pritchard deep on their bench. But after a series of failed championship attempts, it was clear that the Celtics needed more firepower in their starting lineup around Tatum and Brown to fully contend. So during the 2023 offseason, they went and got crucial pieces like Porzingis and Holiday, creating by far one of the most deadly starting lineups in the NBA. But having all this firepower came with its sacrifices. With this many mouths to feed on offense, players were going to have to sacrifice some some of their touches in order to see team results. In 2023, Jayson Tatum was the number one guy for the Celtics in offense, averaging over 30 points, nearly 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 21 field goal attempts. But due to the new look of the Celtics offense in 2024, he had to make some personal sacrifices of his stats, dropping his points per game to 26.9, a mark that looks more similar to his 2022 stats. His rebounds also decreased, along with his shot attempts per game. Jaylen Brown is a similar story. He averaged close to 27 points a game last year, 7 boards, 3.5 assists, and took over 20 shots a game in 2023. However, in 2024, his numbers have dropped to 23 points a game, 5.5 rebounds, and 17 field goal attempts a game. Kristaps Porzingis had a dynamite year in Washington in 2023, averaging 23 points, 8 boards, almost 3 assists, and nearly 16 shot attempts. But when joining the Celtics, his numbers have dropped to 20 points, 7 boards, 2 assists, and 13 shot attempts. Jrue Holiday by far has the biggest drop-off from last season, taking a completely different role with the Celtics. Holiday in 2023 with the Bucks averaged 19 points, 5 boards, 7.4 assists, and 15 field goal attempts. In 2024, the Celtics took a lot of the scoring and playmaking duties from Jrue Holiday off his shoulders, where his numbers went down to 12 points, 5 assists, and 10 shot attempts a game. But while we saw drops in production of the main offensive motors for the Celtics, we've seen role players take a huge step up for the Celtics in 2024. The biggest improvement we've seen for Boston is from Derek White, who's become a 3-and-D monster. In 2023, he averaged around 12 points, 3 boards, 4 assists, and took around 9 shot attempts a game. In 2024, White averaged 15 points, 4 boards, 5 assists, and took 11.5 shots on average. And we can't forget about the bench from Boston. The Splash Brothers from the TD Garden, of course that being Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser, went crazy this season, proving they're worthy of big-time minutes on the best team in the league. Sam Hauser in 2023 averaged around 6 points, 2 boards, and shot a measly 5 shot attempts a game. Now Hauser's averaging 9 points, 3.5 boards, and taking around 7 shots a game. Peyton Pritchard was averaging around 5.5 points and below 2 boards and assists, while shooting around 5 shot attempts a game. Now the man is shooting close to 8 shots while averaging close to double figures. But one of the real reasons why the Celtics took such a jump from last season to this season is the efficiency this offense runs with now. Joe Mazzulla has fully executed the Celtics' 3-point bombing offense that generates great looks like clockwork. The Celtics in 2024 have gotten out of the Tatum and Brown isolation offense and fully trusted in the fast-paced, constant ball movement offense that gets them open looks consistently. Right here, this table shows the 8 main Celtics rotation players with their efficiency from last year and then this year. Green numbers mean they were more efficient in that season, while red numbers mean the opposite. As we can see, Jayson Tatum improved both his regular and 3-point field goal percentage, along with Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, and Peyton Pritchard. Porzingis improved his regular field goal percentage while slightly decreasing his 3. Derek White is the opposite, improving his 3 while taking a hit on his normal field goal percentage. Sam Hauser is in the same boat as White, and Al Horford is like Porzingis. He got his regular field goal percentage over 50% while failing to maintain his 44.6% 3-point percentage from last year. When you look at this table, the Celtics for the most part have improved their efficiency with most players, or at the very least stayed the same with some players. Boston really cut out a lot of the fat from last year's offense with a more talented starting lineup, underrated players coming off the bench, and a whole team willing to make personal sacrifices to their stats. It's really a no-brainer why Boston's offense is a maximized scoring machine. If we can take away anything from the 2024 NBA playoffs, it's that not every single championship is built equally. There are some rings that seem relatively easy compared to other championships. There are also rings that seem almost impossible to achieve looking back at it. I think there's no doubt in anyone's mind that the Celtics relatively caught a break throughout most of the playoffs this year. They first played against the Heat without Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier. Then they played against the Cavs without D. Mitch or Jarrett Allen. Then they played against the Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton or Benedict Mathurin. But then the Celtics shut out the criticism, beating a pretty healthy Mavs team, not 100%, but healthier than anything they've seen so far. But this isn't the only time a team caught a break in the playoffs. The Nuggets last year literally played against 3 play-in teams to win the finals. The best team they played against had 45 wins in the regular season. The 2015 Warriors caught the biggest break in the finals, not having to play against Kyrie or Kevin Love. The 1987 Lakers literally played against 2 teams in the playoffs that had under 40 regular season wins. They played against the Nuggets in the first round, who had 37 wins, then they played against the 42-win Warriors, then they played against the 39-win Supersonics in the conference finals. It wasn't until the NBA Finals where they actually played against some decent competition in the Boston Celtics, who they beat in 6. These are some examples of easy playoff runs, but what about the other side of the coin? The Dallas Mavericks had the exact opposite experience as the Celtics in the 2024 playoffs, having to go through countless star players and great teams in the postseason. They first had to beat the 51-win Clippers with PG, Kawhi, and Harden. Then they beat the 1-seed OKC Thunder. Then they had to humble the red-hot Minnesota Timberwolves with Ant-Man. And if it wasn't hard enough, their finals matchup was probably the best team we've seen in the last 5 years. But the Mavericks have a history of incredibly difficult playoff runs. In 2011, they had to beat the LaMarcus Aldridge Trailblazers. They swept the former NBA champions with Kobe and Pau. They beat the OKC Thunder with KD, Westbrook, and Harden. And finally, they beat the 3-headed dragon, beating the Miami Heat in 6. In 2016, the Cavs with LeBron only had to do the most difficult thing in sports history, beating the 73-9 Warriors in a 7-game series. But how does the Celtics championship run from this year and every other run from NBA history compare against each other? Right here, we have a chart that shows the relative greatness of a playoff run based on postseason record and strength of schedule. On the x-axis, we have the win percentage of teams, and on the y-axis, we have the strength of schedule based on SRS score. SRS, or Simple Rating System, is a stat that quantifies the relative strength of a team based on margin of victory and strength of schedule. First, looking more towards the upper left, where the competition was fierce, but the winning percentage of the champion wasn't as high, we have teams like the 1994 Rockets, who had by far the toughest road to a title. We also have teams like the 2000 Lakers, the 2014 Spurs, and the 1992 Chicago Bulls. Towards the lower left corner of the chart, where competition is weaker and the winning percentage of the champion was also weaker, this is where you don't want to be as a team. We have teams like the 2008 Celtics, 1988 Lakers, 1984 Celtics, and the 2013 Heat. Towards the lower right corner of the graph are teams that played easier competition but dominated them with a better winning percentage. These would be teams like the 2023 Denver Nuggets, 1987 Lakers, 1986 Celtics, and the 1991 Chicago Bulls. Finally, in the upper right corner, the spot where you want your team to land, the teams that have played against fierce competition while dominating them with a high win percentage. Teams that fall in here are the 1989 Pistons, the 1983 76ers, the 2017 Golden State Warriors, and the 2001 Lakers. When looking at the collection of rings from the greatest legends to play this game, Michael Jordan's rings look like this. An average win percentage with above average competition. Kobe's rings look like this. Mixed dominance by win percentage while playing against some really good teams. Many of LeBron's rings fall below average in both categories except that 2016 one. Steph Curry and his 4 rings played against some pretty good competition while putting up average win percentages. This just shows how good the 2017 Warriors were. But you're probably wondering, where's the 2024 Celtics? Well, if you look towards the bottom of your screen, near the right, you'll find the Celtics from this year, playing very weak competition historically while dominating them. If you're interested more about the real truth of the finals path the Celtics had to deal with, I recommend you go watch this video where I explain the small details and add context to this situation. But anyways, we have to talk about Jayson Tatum.
9 assists in the first half. Tatum sidestep three-pointer. It's good! Jayson Tatum from downtown again!
Although Jayson Tatum didn't win the finals MVP, throughout his NBA career, he's been scoring like he's the clear #1 option on offense. Jayson Tatum, already at the young age of 26, has an extensive history of playoff buckets. The guy's been competing in the playoffs since 2018. Kobe Bryant, before he turned age 27, already had a stacked resume of 119 total playoff games, 4 finals appearances, 3 NBA championships, and a total of 2,964 points. LeBron James, prior to age age 27, also had a very extensive playoff career with 92 games, 2 finals appearances, and a total of 2,578 points. Kevin Durant, prior to the age of 27, had 73 total playoff games, a finals appearance, 3 conference finals appearances, and a total of 2,109 points. Luka Doncic, who's only 25 years old at the moment, already has 49 total playoff games, 2 conference finals appearances, 1 finals appearance, and a total of 1,546 points. But Jayson Tatum, the man in 7 total postseason appearances, 5 conference finals appearances, 2 NBA finals appearances, and 1 NBA championship, has amassed a total of 2,711 points. There's no other player in the history of the league that scored more points prior to the age of 27 than Jayson Tatum. Tatum is already outpacing every NBA legend the game has ever seen in playoff buckets at this age. Right here, we have a chart that shows the top 15 NBA playoff scorers before age 27. After Tatum at number 1, we have Kobe at a very close number 2, followed by LeBron at 3. Tony Parker surprised me here at 4, coming into an already developed Spurs franchise. Tatum's teammate Jaylen Brown is at number 6 on this list, with slightly under 2,000 points. After that, Giannis finds himself near the top along with guys like Shaq, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Luka Doncic. JT is literally putting up playoff point totals that we've never seen before at this age. But Jayson Tatum has proven this postseason that he's not just a playoff scorer, but that he's also a proven leader of an NBA championship team. Right here, this chart shows the relationship for the amount of points a player has accumulated in relation to when they got their first ring. On the x-axis, we have time in the form of seasons, and on the y-axis, we have total points. Magic Johnson is by far the quickest legend to get a ring, getting it in his first NBA season, winning the Finals MVP as a rookie. It took Tim Duncan about 581 points and 2 seasons to get his first ring. Larry Bird also did it in 2 seasons and around a similar point total. Dwayne Wade got his first ring in 2006, his 3rd season in the league, scoring 1,272 points. Kobe Bryant is one of the only guys on here who wasn't really the best player on his first championship team, but it still only took him around 4 seasons to get it. It took Steph Curry 3 years of not seeing the playoffs and another 2 years of failing under the bright lights until he got his first ring in his 6th season in 2015. Jayson Tatum, the most recent addition to this chart, it took him 7 playoff appearances with a whopping playoff point total of over 2,700 points to get his first ring. Michael Jordan also took 7 years to get his first ring in 1991, where he amassed 2,425 points. It took Giannis 8 years to get his first ring in 2021. Nikola Jokic also took 8 years to get his first ring. Isaiah Thomas from the Bad Boy Pistons got his first ring in 1989. Shaq amassed 2,469 points in 8 seasons while getting his first ring in 2000. After 8 years of failure, LeBron James, after scoring a criminal 3,275 points and 9 years of NBA basketball, finally got his first ring in 2012. Kevin Durant took a whole decade to get his first championship in 2017. Hakeem Olajuwon also took 10 years from 1985 to 1994. David Robinson took 10 years as well, winning his first ring in 1999. And by far the longest wait for a ring, Dirk Nowitzki took 13 years from 1998 until 2011 to finally get his first ring. I don't think people realize that Jayson Tatum is literally on the same pace or better than most NBA legends to rack up playoff points while collecting championships. But of course, this requires some context. To say that Jayson Tatum is better than greats like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Shaquille O'Neal, and Tim Duncan at the age of 26 would outright be blasphemous. While Jayson Tatum is putting up a lot of points for a young superstar in the playoffs, the man has constantly had great rosters around him for his whole career so far. While MJ had to build the Bulls from scratch, LeBron had to build up the Cavs, Curry had to build up the Warriors, Giannis had to build up the Bucks, Jokic had to build up the Nuggets, and so on for most of these legends here. Jayson Tatum didn't have the burden of doing this, already having a bona fide superstar in Kyrie Irving there, and impactful role players like Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris, and you could even say a young Jaylen Brown. Jayson Tatum hasn't had to go through the rebuilding process like many of the greats first had to, which is a big reason why he's found playoff success earlier than most legends. Right here, we have a chart that shows the amount of team wins each legend had with their first championship team. As we can see, some of the best teams on here for legends' first rings were the 2000 Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, Steph Curry with the 2015 Warriors, KD with the 2017 Warriors, and our friend Jayson Tatum with the 64-win Boston Celtics. The columns with the asterisk sign mean that the season wasn't 82 games long, so the win count is deflated. So LeBron, Giannis, Duncan, and D-Rob. This chart is great, but it doesn't factor in how much contributions the individual players actually made. But lucky for us, we can figure this out. Basketball Reference has a stat called win shares, which, as the name kind of gives away, it shows how much wins a player is credited for regarding the whole team's win count. And this stat will be helpful to show context of how much each star contributed to their first ring. So this is what this chart looks like when you show the amount of win shares each legend had. Jayson Tatum in green has the third worst margin of team wins to individual win shares. The only other two players that were assisted more by their teams were Isaiah Thomas in 1989 and Kobe Bryant in 2000. Even the other second options on here like Magic Johnson in 1980 and David Robinson contributed more than Jayson Tatum did this year. Tatum in the NBA Finals had a stat line of 22 points, 7.8 rebounds, 7.2 assists, 1 steal, and 0.6 blocks. A pretty good stat line, but nothing that quite jumps out at you as superstar numbers. When comparing Jayson Tatum's points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks combined, which adds up to 38.8, he actually has the fourth worst stat line on here of the 16 legends we've looked at. The only other legends to have a worse stat line are David Robinson, Kobe, and Isaiah Thomas. This is the ultimate criticism that Jayson Tatum will inevitably get until he becomes that clear number one option for the Celtics. Well, Tatum has seen so much early playoff success in his career, with countless conference finals appearances and an NBA championship before most players even make the NBA finals. Jayson Tatum has never needed to carry the weight of his own team to win a title. He's constantly been with elite level rosters that complement his game, something you can't quite say about every past superstar. So until he puts up more superstar-like numbers in the playoffs and proves that he's the clear number one option on his team, he won't be held to the same standard of greatness of previous championship winning stars.